It's 11 p.m. You're lying in bed. The lights are off.
Oh, yeah.
You are physically exhausted, but your brain is just vibrating. You're scrolling.
We all know that exact feeling.
Right. You're watching people on a screen who seem richer, happier, or just vastly more put together than you. You see a headline that makes your blood boil, so you get a hit of anger. Then you see a friend's promotion, and you get a hit of jealousy. And underneath all of that noise, there's this gnawing, quiet sense of being totally alone.
It's heavy.
Like you're running on a treadmill that is slowly picking up speed, and no matter how hard you hustle, you're just losing ground.
Yeah.
If that sounds familiar, it's because it's the script we've all been handed. But what if the reason we're so tired isn't because we weren't running fast enough?
Yeah.
What if it's because we're running in the wrong direction? Stay with us, because this changes how you see everything.
For sure.
Welcome to Kingdom Conversations, the Upside-Down Revolution. Today's topic, the kingdom of God, isn't what you think. And that's why we're losing ground.
I am so ready for this one.
Me too. We're looking at some incredible work today, pulling from Pastor Florin's research, his recent sermons, to really break down why modern life feels so entirely overwhelming.
Yeah, and looking at Pastor Florin's work here, this isn't just about theology. I mean, this is really about the sociology of burnout.
Exactly. We're going to map this out in 3 specific ways today. First, the tension, like why we feel so torn between 2 worlds. Second, the revolution itself, how Jesus completely flips our ideas of success and fairness.
Which is the best part.
Right. And finally, the practice, how to stop performing and start actually living. So let's jump right into the first segment, the invisible current. I started the show describing that treadmill feeling. I think everyone listening knows that vibration.
Oh, absolutely.
It's that low-level anxiety that just hums in the background of everything we do.
It is, and in the research provided by Pastor Florin, he argues that this exhaustion isn't accidental, it's actually structural. He uses this term cultural tension. And I think it's important we define culture here because usually, when we say culture, we think of art galleries or pop music.
Right, like Italian culture means pasta and opera.
Exactly. But in his notes, culture is defined much deeper. It's the scripts we live by, the operating system, basically.
The default settings.
Yeah. His thesis is that we operate under this illusion that we're neutral agents, that we just wake up and make choices in a vacuum. But his research points out that we are being shaped every single second. We're constantly absorbing a world culture that tells us who we are and what actually matters.
Okay, so if we look at his notes, what are these scripts? Like, what is the world culture actually telling us to do?
Well, look at the drivers of that treadmill you mentioned. The scripts are things like hustle for your worth, outrage is virtue, consumption is comfort.
I mean, if I don't post about it, did it even happen?
Precisely. And we actually have data to back this up. There was a recent assessment done right here in the local community. And it's worth noting, this is a relatively well-off area socioeconomically. You'd expect people to be doing great.
You really would. If money solves problems, their problems should be solved.
But the numbers are just staggering. What he's seeing in the community is rising anxiety, deep loneliness, and a massive crisis of purpose. His notes describe it as spiritual poverty amidst material wealth.
Wow. Spiritual poverty.
Yeah. Seniors are isolated. Young parents are completely overwhelmed. The script of more, faster, better simply isn't delivering on the promise.
So, to put it bluntly, we are drinking the Kool-Aid, but it's making us sick.
That's the takeaway. But here's the part most people miss, and Pastor Florin emphasizes this heavily. You can't just opt out of culture.
They can't just live in the woods.
Right, you can't live in a void. You are always being shaped by something. So if you want to stop the exhaustion, you can't just hit pause. You have to actively replace the script.
Which brings us to our next segment. 2 nations, 1 heart. Replace it with what, exactly? Because this is where I usually get a little skeptical. Is this the part where the notes just say, go to church more and try to be nicer?
No, and I love that his notes actually call that out specifically. There's a crucial distinction made here regarding the kingdom of God. Now, be honest. When you hear kingdom of God, what is your default image?
Clouds,
Oh.
harps, St. Peter at a pearly gate checking a clipboard. Basically,
Yeah.
heaven later.
Right, the afterlife insurance policy.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
But the definition in these notes is so much more radical. It posits that the kingdom isn't just a destination after you die. It's the national culture of God's realm, and it's available right now.
Hold on. A national culture, like a country.
Yes. Pastor Florin uses this analogy of an immigrant. Imagine you move to a completely new country. Let's say you move to Japan. You can't just show up in Tokyo and act exactly like you did back home, right? You have to learn a new language. You have to learn new customs. You have to learn how people treat each other there. The social contract is totally different.
Right. If I act like my usual self in Tokyo,
Mm.
I'm going to be incredibly rude and probably cause a scene.
Exactly. And the thesis argues that this isn't just about believing a set of facts or waiting for heaven. It's about immigrating to a new nation with a new culture today. It's an allegiance change. And here is where the clash happens.
The clash between the two cultures.
Yes. The clash between the culture you live in physically, the one telling you to hustle and hate your enemies, and the culture of the kingdom, which tells you to do the exact opposite. And the problem, according to his research, is that often what we call church culture isn't actually kingdom culture. It just mimics world culture with a religious veneer.
Okay, can I be honest for a second?
Please.
I've been in religious environments that felt just as competitive as a corporate sales floor.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It's just different metrics.
Yeah.
Instead of who made the most money is who volunteers the most or who has the most perfectly behaved kids. It still feels like a performance. It still feels utterly exhausting.
That is such a vital observation. Pastor Florin actually uses an image for that in one of his messages. He calls it a rusty pipe painted with gold paint.
Oof. That is incredibly vivid.
Right. The gold paint is the religious behavior, saying the right things, showing up on time, looking the part. But underneath, the pipe is still rusty. It's still operating on the world's script of performance and image management and hustle.
So I'm looking shiny, but I'm still corroding on the inside.
Exactly. Real kingdom culture isn't about painting the pipe. It's about replacing the material entirely. So if the kingdom isn't just being religious, what is it? It turns out it's a complete reversal of how the world works.
Which perfectly sets up our third segment, the fairness trap. Because if it's this, what do we call it, the upside-down revolution, let's look at what that actually looks like in practice. His notes highlight a few specific areas where this clash is the most violent.
And it really brings us to the concept of fairness.
Fairness, okay.
Let's look at how Jesus handles the concept of fairness in the parable of the workers in the vineyard. Because the world's script is remarkably simple. You get what you earn.
Meritocracy, it's the water we swim in. If I work hard, I succeed. If I don't, I fail.
Right. So in the story, a landowner goes out at 6 a.m. and hires a crew. They agree on a fair day's wage. Then he goes out at 9 a.m., noon, and 3 p.m. and hires more people. Finally, at 5 p.m., literally 1 hour before quitting time, he hires the last group.
The stragglers.
The ones nobody else wanted, the ones who probably slept in or weren't strong enough or just had bad luck. And when it's time to pay them, the landowner gives the guys who worked 1 hour a full day's wage.
Which is a very nice gesture, very generous.
But then he gives the guys who worked 12 hours the exact same amount.
Whoa. See, even hearing that now, it triggers something in me.
Does it?
Yes, that's not fair. If I work 12 hours in the scorching heat and the guy who just showed up gets the same check, I'm filing a complaint. I am furious.
And that is exactly how the first workers felt. They grumbled. They said, "We bore the burden of the day. This hits our modern obsession with merit and earning so hard. We are so programmed to compare our yield with everyone else's."
It feels unjust. It feels like my effort didn't even count.
But here is the kingdom logic, and this is where the upside-down revolution really starts. The notes explain that God isn't looking at economic yield. In the world's culture, your value is what you produce. In kingdom culture, the landowner operates on generosity, not comparative justice.
So he's not paying for the work. He's caring for the worker.
Yes, that's it. The world says compare and compete. The kingdom says receive and rest. The scandal isn't that the first workers were underpaid. They got exactly what they agreed to. The scandal is that the last workers were treated with dignity they didn't actually earn.
That is a tough pill to swallow, though. I mean, it destroys hustle culture. It means my 12 hours of grinding doesn't make me more valuable than the person who just stumbled in.
It is humiliating to the ego. But think about the relief in that. If your worth isn't tied to your yield, you can finally get off the treadmill. You don't have to keep earning your seat at the table.
That is a relief.
Yeah.
But, okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate here.
Do it.
If we stop hustling and stop fighting and stop comparing, what happens to justice? What happens to the bad guys? Because another huge part of our current cultural script is outrage. We have to call out the bad things.
Which leads us directly to the next cultural tension in the notes. Segment 4, the outrage exhaustion. The world's outrage script versus the kingdom's patience.
This is sort of the cancel culture section, right?
In a way, yes. We feel this immense pressure to be the judge, jury, and executioner. If we see something bad, a weed, we have to rip it out immediately. We have to post about it, shame it, destroy it.
Because if we don't, we're complicit. We have to keep the garden clean.
That's the feeling. But look at the parable of the wheat and the weeds. A farmer plants wheat, but an enemy plants weeds in the middle of the night. The servants, who are very diligent, want to go rip up the weeds right away.
Which makes total sense. Get the bad stuff out so the good stuff can actually grow.
But the master says no. He says if you pull the weeds now, you'll uproot the wheat with them. He says let them grow together until the harvest.
Let them grow together. That sounds incredibly passive. It almost sounds like giving up.
It sounds passive to us because we are absolutely addicted to immediate justice. But Pastor Floren's thesis connects this to avoiding tribalism. When we try to play judge, we usually just do damage. We aren't surgical enough to remove the evil without hurting the good.
We're clumsy gardeners.
Exactly. Kingdom culture is a culture of patience. It trusts that the king is actually competent to handle the justice in the end. It frees you from the exhausting job of being the universe's police force.
Oh, wow. You know, that actually reminds me of a personal situation. Yeah, a few years ago, I had a friend who was making some, let's call them questionable life choices, definitely weeds.
Okay, I'm with you.
And I went into full fix-it mode. I was judging, I was lecturing, I was trying to rip those bad habits out of his life. I really thought I was being a good influence. But you know what happened?
What?
I didn't fix him. I just lost the friendship. I completely uprooted the whole relationship. If I'd just been patient, maybe things would have looked different.
That is such a powerful example of the wheat and weeds dynamic. We want to be the harvesters, but we're just the workers. The kingdom lets us trust God with the outcome. And think about how much energy that saves you. The exhaustion of social media is largely the exhaustion of feeling like you have to have a hot take on literally everything immediately.
Yes.
Kingdom culture says, you can put down the gavel, I've got this.
So we've talked about the exhaustion of hustle and the exhaustion of outrage. But there's one more layer in his notes that I think is the most critical for everyone listening right now. It connects back to that community assessment about identity confusion and spiritual disengagement.
Right, our fifth segment, running on empty.
And there is this haunting story Jesus tells here, the parable of the 10 virgins.
Oh, this one always scares people.
It does. You have 10 bridesmaids waiting for the groom. They all have lamps. They all look the part. They're all at the right venue. But the groom is delayed. He takes a long time.
There's the waiting game again.
Yeah.
Kingdom culture always seems to involve waiting.
Yeah, and they all fall asleep. But when the groom finally arrives, 5 of them realize their lamps are going out. They have absolutely no oil.
And the other 5, the wise ones, they won't share. Which, again, feels a little mean by modern standards. Like, go buy your own.
It feels incredibly selfish if you think the oil is a commodity, like gasoline or batteries.
But in the context of these notes, the oil doesn't represent a product. It represents the internal spiritual life, your actual history with the king. You can't borrow a relationship at the last minute.
Oh, I see. I can't just say, hey, my friend is really close to God, so I'll just draft off his spirituality to get into the party.
Exactly. You can't borrow someone else's peace. The foolish ones had all the external trappings. The lamps, the outfits. They looked like they belonged to the party, but they had no internal fuel for the long haul.
That is the literal definition of modern burnout, isn't it?
It really is.
We have the job title, the house, the curated social media feed. We have the lamp. But internally, we are running on fumes. We are spiritually drowsy.
And the scariest part of the parable is when the foolish ones finally knock on the door, the groom says, I don't know you. The door shuts.
Ouch.
But it's not because he's being vindictive. It's because it's the truth. They spent all their time on the show and no time on the relationship. The kingdom culture prioritizes the internal life over the external show.
That's the upside-down revolution part again. The world says, fake it till you make it. The world says, image is everything. The kingdom says, if you're faking it, you've already missed it.
Yeah. It shifts the entire priority from how do I look to who am I becoming?
So let's try to synthesize this. We've covered a lot of ancient ground today.
We have. We looked at Matthew 20, the workers in the vineyard. That teaches us grace over merit.
We looked at Matthew 13, the wheat and the weeds. That's patience over outrage.
And Matthew 25, the 10 virgins. Internal life over external show.
And it all seems to pivot around Matthew 6.33. Seek first the kingdom. It's really about priorities. And Luke 17.21, the kingdom is among you or within you. It's accessible. You don't have to wait for heaven to start living this way.
And that's the real hope here. You can switch countries today. You don't have to move geographically. You just have to change your allegiance.
Now, speaking of allegiance, this conversation is just the beginning. Pastor Florin's notes outline a full roadmap for this upside-down revolution. Here is where we are going in the next few parts of our series.
I'm looking forward to it.
Episode 2, Justice That Heals, Beyond Outrage and Denial.
Yeah.
Episode 3, Burnout and Hustle, Worth is Not Performance.
A huge one.
Episode 4, Distraction and Desire, Finding the Better Treasure.
So needed.
Episode 5, Slow Growth, Deep Change That Lasts.
Right.
And finally, Episode 6, A Third Way Beyond Silent or Savage, Grounded in Real Community Needs.
It's going to be a transformative series.
But we don't want to leave you with just theory today. We want you to try living in this new nation this week. We have 3 very practical try this experiments.
First, try a news fast. We talked about the outrage script. Replace just 15 minutes of scrolling or news consumption with silence or a short walk. Just 15 minutes. And while you do it, ask yourself, what script is trying to shape me right now?
I'm definitely trying that when the noise is just too loud. Second, the unfair prayer. When you feel slighted or jealous or like you deserve more, when you feel like that worker who did 12 hours and got ripped off, pray this: thank you that I don't get what I deserve. I get what you give.
Wow. That is a powerful disruption to the ego. It kind of hurts a little to say it.
It does. It really does. And finally, check your oil. Ask one friend, someone who will be completely honest with you. Do I seem stressed and thin on the inside or at peace? And then just listen to the answer. Don't defend yourself. Just listen.
That's probably the hardest one. Vulnerability is the exact opposite of the world script.
The kingdom of God isn't a destination. It's a revolution in how you handle today. It's opting out of the treadmill and walking a totally different path.
We're losing ground because we're running the wrong race, so stop running. Start engaging.
A perfect way to end. What if you just stopped running today? Think about that. Join us next time for episode 2. Thanks for being with us.